After we wrapped up yesterday's episode of the John Campea Show, Rob looked up from his phone suddenly and said, "Oh my God, did you know that Steven Spielberg was already prepping to direct the first Harry Potter movie before Stanley Kubrick died and went off, and so he went and did AI?" I'm like, I did not know. Like, maybe that was a known thing and I've forgotten, but I didn't realize that. This story here kind of came out as Steven Spielberg just recently did an interview. Steven Spielberg was actually not only going to direct Harry Potter, he had already started all the preparation for doing Harry Potter. And, Jonathan brought up a really good point before the show started. He said, because how the magical music of Harry Potter was, of course, composed by the GOAT, John Williams. Jonathan pointed out before the show started, he goes, that explains why John Williams was attached to Harry Potter already, because Steven Spielberg was going to be the director of it. Now, the way the story goes is that Kubrick had been developing AI, the movie AI,
for a long time,
for a very, very long time. And at some point it was understood that Spielberg would direct it. And the way the story is relayed through Spielberg is when Stanley Kubrick died, his widow approached Spielberg and said, I think it's time to do Stanley's movie. So Spielberg said, okay. And he walked away from Harry Potter and went off and did AI. Full disclosure, not my favorite Steven Spielberg film, but the idea of it is grandiose.
It's gotten better with age.
Think so?
Yeah.
It's got incredibly deep themes. I mean, 100% it does. Anyway, can you imagine the already absolute goated status of Steven Spielberg, who has done a top 5 movie in every genre imaginable? I mean, he gave us Raiders, and he gave us Jaws, and he gave us Close Encounters, and he gave us Schindler's List, and he gave it, well, I mean, we could sit here for an afternoon and run down all the films. Can you imagine if that also included Harry Potter? Can you imagine if on top of all of that, it's like if Tom Brady also won the NBA championship. Oh, by the way, he also has an NBA. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous to think about that. But it also says something really to me about the nature and character of Steven Spielberg, because, everybody knew Potter was going to be a smash hit. It was the hottest book series in the world. Everybody was waiting for it. And instead, he decided to honor a friend's dying wish. And he walked away from Harry Potter and went and did AI. And that he had to have known was never going to be nearly as big as Harry Potter would be, or all that kind of stuff. And he had already done a whole bunch of work to get Harry Potter ready. So when you hit me with that story yesterday, Rob, I immediately went and read about it. And I think this is an amazing story. The type of stories I like hearing coming out of Hollywood. Anyway, were you surprised when you heard about this?
Well, yeah, because, I actually saw the story. When I looked up and said, I was reminded of it. I'd seen it the day before. He was on a show. He's been doing every single podcast in the world to promote.
He's been so busy with this.
And I realized you don't see Steven Spielberg talk very much.
No, he doesn't do much press.
He hasn't done audio commentaries, and he hasn't done, when he does interviews, they're few and far between. But this guy is tub thumping for this movie anywhere he seems to be able to go.
Podcasts. He's on things I would have never thought.
And hey, I have to say, and when we saw him at CinemaCon, that was like when Coleman Domingo was interviewing him. I'm like, he's a really engaging raconteur. And I've always liked Steven Spielberg's voice, but to watch these, and he told that story on a podcast. And look, Stanley Kubrick's my favorite director. I've got so many books about Stanley Kubrick, and I don't know why I'd never heard this before, but I'm like, he was really going to direct Harry Potter and dropped out? Because Kubrick, one of the things that he didn't get is the latter half of his career was a box office smash.
Yeah.
And that's what he was obsessed with, the way Spielberg could just crank out these box office smashes. So he was developing AI. It's based on a story called Super Toys Last All Summer Long. I think that was written by Brian Aldiss. And he had many people develop this, and this was going to be his big claim to fame. And I just never heard the story, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. And it was because Spielberg told it. I wouldn't have believed it until I saw it. I'm like, he said it himself. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what other nuggets of amazing information? I'm like, keep talking, Steve. I want to go back and watch every single podcast he's been on just to hear what he has to say.
They're all recent.
funny coming out of, you mentioned we got to watch him do that sit down talk with Coleman Domingo at CinemaCon. I can't remember which guy said it, but somebody later in the day, because Christopher Nolan earlier in the presentation came out and talked about Odyssey. And Snoop Dogg was there too. So one of the guys came out on stage there, and I cannot remember who it was, but said, how many people get to say, yeah, I was just hanging out backstage with Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, and Snoop Dogg.
Right.
It's like, was it Patton Oswalt that
Yeah,
did
he
that?
might have been. Yeah,
Might have been Patton Oswalt
yeah.
or something. I thought, well, like one of the funniest things that I've heard. But again, it's hard to imagine the GOAT also having Harry Potter on his resume. I mean, it's just crazy to me. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hims. You know, one of the hardest things about trying to lose weight is just figuring out what actually works. Because we've seen them all. There are a million trends, diets, and gimmicks out there, and honestly, it can get overwhelming. And that's why weight loss by Hims really stands out. Hims now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever, and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever and only GLP-1 available in a pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. And the process is extremely convenient. Everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication gets delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/Campea to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/Campea. hims.com/Campea. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required, fee not included, and billed separately. Weight loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this little story? Steven Spielberg was actually not just in theory, he was already prepping the Harry Potter movie, apparently got John Williams on board and everything, and then walked away from it as to fulfill the dying wish of a friend of his. Anyway, whatever you guys think about the story, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.